TTB Music Podcast.
Merry Christmas!
Hey! Merry Christmas!
Yeah. Hello, podcasting world. This was meant to be the Christmas podcast, even though there aren't any Christmas albums in it. But that kind of went wrong, so it's now the New Year podcast, but it's still the end of last year as far as our podcast listening goes.
Right. I'm glad you clarified that. I was going to keep up that whole pretense for half an hour. I was going to tell you about all the amazing things that I predicted for the first week of January. You know, that post office scandal? I have a feeling that's going to blow up again.
Unlikely.
No. You reckon?
Yeah.
We shall see.
So, we're also eating snacks, so apologies for the extra sound effects. We are reviewing Baby Queen Quarter Life Crisis, Sophie Lloyd Imposter Syndrome, Poppy Zig, Wargasm, Venom, Pink Pantheress Heaven Knows, and Aesop Rock Integrated Tech Solutions.
Excellent.
So, we'll start off by looking at Baby Queen Quarter Life Crisis. This is the first album, quote unquote, as apparently 2001's The Yearbook was classed as a mixtape, even though I own it on vinyl, so it's very much an album.
Uh-huh.
But, yeah. Anyway, apparently that's not how it works. And, it's also a mixtape, and, it's not available on a tape. But yeah.
Sorry, I'm just crunching through this.
Let's just get on to the music, Pete.
Let's do it.
Baby Queen.
Put the snacks down.
Baby Queen.
Baby Queen Quarter Life Crisis. We saw Baby Queen, didn't we? Yeah, about 18 months ago.
We did.
And I think, as you say, this first quote unquote album proper, I think what is great about this album overall is, is the cutting lyrics combined with that sort of perfect pop melodies, tales of mental health, unrequited love, and classic pop hits. I mean, what more do you want? I think it's the package. It's complete. I think it's a really good album.
Mm-hmm.
If I was to have one minor critical point, and this is me quibbling, lyrics aside, it feels that this is much more polished, perhaps, than some of her earlier releases. And certainly when we saw her Electric Ballroom,
yeah,
she's definitely more of a punk act, I think, live, or certainly definitely more of a guitar presence live. I know it's all pop music. I know there's all that sort of shit on it and everything, but I feel that the live act is definitely worth seeing because it's a lot rawer. Whereas this, my mum, and again, I said, this is a really minor quibble and I'm already going on far too long. This feels very well produced. That said, I think it's a great pop soundtrack, unsurprisingly, given again some of her recent work, and worthy of repeated listens and success. But then again, I think you and I already knew that. I won't delve straight into the tracks I like. Why don't you tell us what you thought?
I certainly agree about the live thing, because obviously me and my daughter,
you've seen them all.
We saw her November.
Right,
November.
yeah, it was quite rich, wasn't it?
And again,
Yeah.
I agree totally that as a live proposition, much more guitar orientated, much more in your face.
Yeah.
Than this. And you say it's fun pop music with an injection of indie rock. The rock bit definitely comes across better live. I did feel, though, for me, that this, you've quite touched on it, I think, whilst it's all lovely, it does lack some of the kind of zip and cutting edge that the mixtape album, the Yearbook, I think it had in spades, frankly, on things like Narcissist and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's still an enjoyable record. Yeah.
It's really enjoyable.
She still writes good pop songs.
Yeah.
Love Killer could be dollar, frankly. It's But the title track's great. Really like Die Alone.
Yes.
I think Grow Up as well. Towards the number.
Yeah.
Really good track. Yeah, it's. I'm going to mention this word several times in the podcast. It's a solid album.
It's a solid album. I think it's better than a solid album. I think it's a great pop album. I mean, from the opener, We Can Be Anything, And you mentioned a couple of the other tracks there already. I love Dream Girl. That sort of
Dream Girl's good, yeah.
that Tale of Unrequited Love.
I mean, Dream Girl sounded like Dream Girl could definitely have been on the yearbook.
It could have been on the yearbook, couldn't it? Or the Heartstopper soundtrack or whatever. But, you know, yeah, it's. I think it's a really solid. I just repeated what you said. It's a really good pop album.
So let's move from pop to rock. And Sophie Lloyd, Imposter Syndrome. First album from this talented British guitarist who made her name as a YouTube guitar sensation in her teens, picking up nearly 1 million followers to boot. This is, until recently, she hadn't really stepped out of the bedroom from a guitarist point of view, but she has done so first in deciding to record this album.
Yeah.
And second in becoming part of Machine Gun Kelly's touring band.
Ah, right. Great.
And she said of herself that she's always been pretty open about her struggles with performance anxiety and imposter syndrome, hence the title of the album, and feeling was that she was not good enough to be, you know, on the same stage as various people. I would say, judging by the guitar playing on this album, clearly she is.
Definitely.
And it's an album of collabs with people from the likes of Trivium, Hailstorm, Blackstone Cherry, Red Hand in Denial, Inglorious, and other kind of hard rock outfits of recent times. And again, this is a classic solid.
Classic.
Yeah. Trips through 80s, 90s and 90s inspired hard rock, and does so in mostly a fairly enjoyable manner, I think. As you might expect from a collabs album, it's kind of hard to get a true album flow because you're writing with so many different kind of people and so different styles. So it's more like a various artists kind of album, really, because it is a various artists album. But when it works, I think it works pretty good. So stand out for me are the title track with Hailstorm's Lizzie Hale, this track with Blackstone Cherry's Chris Robinson, Let It Hurt, and actually the album closer, Judge and Jury, with Tyler Connolly from Canadian rockers' Theory of a Dead Man's, which I'd never heard of previous to this. But again, that's very much a modern sounding kind of rock collab. Also a very good collab with another guitar sensation, Cole Rowland, on the instrumental track.
Yes,
thing,
I like
which
that.
is also really nice. Overall, it showcases Lloyd's impressive guitar skills well, and there's nothing here particularly that I didn't like, although the track with Steel Panther's Michael Starr, Runaway, on first couple of listens was a bit too kind of like subpar Poison. But I have to say, I listened to it again today, and I did find myself humming along. So even that has managed to win me over. So it's not a classic, but enjoyable enough, and I think safe to say that Miss Lloyd is here to stay.
I think I lost the duet that you just mentioned with Cole Rowland. The sort of duetting guitar. You know, I think that works really well. I know it's really great. For me, heavy, loud, classic. All adjectives I've written down, and you know the sort of the guest vocals from around the metal world all works really well. It's all accompanied by very accomplished guitar playing and variety of solos on guitar. It's a really enjoyable album, actually.
Yeah,
I think it's well deserved. Absolutely, Imposter Syndrome could be seen as an ironic title because it's absolutely perfect rock album.
There we go. Moving on to the only person on the podcast here we've reviewed before. So Poppy Zig. This is her 5th studio album. We reviewed her 4th back on podcast 8 in 2001.
Wow.
Called Flux. That was a more rock-leaning effort.
Yeah.
This one seems to be going in a slightly different direction, Peter.
It's a harder form of pop, definitely. I listened to this actually as it happens just after the Baby Queen album. And this is definitely darker, more synth-driven, more industrial.
Yeah.
And it's all, for me, for my taste, all very likeable stuff. It opens really strongly, I thought.
Yes.
And I think it peaks. It's better as an album when it reaches more of that experimental peak. Where it sort of falls back a bit, I think it's perhaps not as interesting as a pop album as, say, Baby Queen, which is an unfair comparison to make because they are different, but there we go. But actually, I find the darker, more experimental stuff much more interesting than perhaps the sort of regular pop stuff that it's going for, which probably plays to the strengths, obviously, of the sort of rock previous incarnation as well. So yeah, overall, liked it when it was more experimental. I really liked the track's church outfit.
Yeah.
Zig, obviously.
Which is the kind
which
of
is the hit.
the total kind of metal bit of the album.
The metal hit, maybe. And I also like outfit with this drum and bass.
Yeah.
I just dropped drum and bass in the middle of the album. It was like, oh, really? Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, I've got jungle. So,
Yeah, all right, there you go.
But,
Yeah.
I'd say, I mean, it leans definitely towards the synth end of the spectrum. So, hints of Nin, hints of DM. Also, an eye very much on the Billie Eilish crowd too.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing wrong with that. And it's weird because first got to listen to pre-Christmas time. I was thinking, it's all right. But I listened to it yesterday. And then suddenly things kind of like clicked into place more. So, I'm going to say, it zips more than it zags.
Yeah.
As we zap through these short tracks, ruminating on life and relationships, with elements of industrial, metal, dance, jungle, and
it's all there,
all in there.
Yeah,
very reminiscent of Halsey, I thought, in places. Which again, no bad thing. Particularly on like what it becomes and Flicker, were both kind of mid-album tracks. I thought of that. As you say, church outfit's fantastic. I love the "Life is a commercial for death," and you're hypnotized by the advertisement line in that song. Really, really good. Overall, it avoids being dull, shows lots of inventiveness that was also present on the previous record, it has to be said, which I said was a more kind of rocky thing. And that in itself shows that she's an artist who doesn't want to just stand still creatively, which is to be applauded, I think.
It's funny you mentioned Halsey there, because I did think about that Nin-produced Halsey album at one point. I didn't write it down, but I did have that vibe.
Yeah, there was definitely a few bits very much that style.
Yeah.
Vibe. Yeah, vibe. Yeah, overall, not bad.
Not bad at all.
So we move on to more snacks.
I mean, I really want to apologise to the listeners for the munching.
Yeah.
I can't stop myself.
It's got so terrible.
I'm not pouring myself a drink.
Yeah. I'm drinking non-alcoholic beer and making even more noise
than you would normally.
So, Wargasm Venom, or should we say Wargasm UK?
Yeah. As opposed to Wargasm.
Yeah, because apparently there's more.
Sierra Leone.
There's apparently more than one Wargasm out. Who knew, Frally? A bit like Baby Queen, they released a 2002 mixtape and now have their debut album. So, how to describe Wargasm? Well, Milky Way, I'm not kidding, and Sam Matlock, son of Glenn, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
Produced an electro rock sound that's a bit like what you'd get if you blended The Prodigy with Limp Bizkit. With very occasional moments of, I don't know, someone like, I don't know, maybe even Evanescence or something, but just some nice kind of ethereal occasionally. Brash, noisy, and that's most Prodigy-like on Do It So Good. Actually quite good. There's a bit of fun too with the song Feral, with its very amusing intro about anyone that's got feral or part of
feral
in their name, which actually made me smile. And again, there's a couple of really, really good tracks that don't fit in with the general theme of the album. So for me, Modern Love, which is probably my favourite track on it, which is quite poppy and touches of Nin again, slightly.
Yeah,
and also
definitely.
And also Ride the Thunder with its more kind of Billie Eilish kind of vibe or that as well. But then there's the limp.
Yeah.
There's way too much limp.
Yeah.
Long-time listeners will know of our long history with the Biscuit.
I've hated on the Biscuit. Yeah.
That being named our Worst Album of the Year award after their classic Gone Cobra album. And Biscuit's red dunce does crop up on Bang Your Head.
Yeah, he does.
And that is really all you need to know, really. These crimes cannot be overlooked. Guilt by association and everything. There is too much stuff on this album that sounds like Limp Bizkit.
It's a bit limp.
And that's inexcusable. I'm sorry. So there are moments when they're showing that they could be a band that could be kind of interesting, but they need to dump the Biscuit.
I'm going to say something now that will surprise you. Brace yourself.
What? To be fair, you were actually slightly more praiseworthy of the last Limp Bizkit album than I was.
I actually quite like this on repeated listen. I got into the fun and sensibility of it. And even Bang Your Head with Fred Durst, I was like, all right, okay, yeah, I can vibe with this. This is fine. I think what appeals to me about the album, and I agree with you completely, Modern Love is the strongest track. I think the pop, I was going to say pop sensibilities, that melodic sensibility buried deep down there somewhere.
There's pop sensibility.
And I wrote Prodigy, and I was thinking Prodigy peak, Fat of the Land, electronic punk sort of era. I thought very much there, and that appealed to me clearly. So I'm prepared to give it a pass, because actually it's quite an enjoyable listen. It's a fun listen, even if it is a bit silly.
And there you go.
Yeah.
Moving on, 2 albums to go. Pink Pantheress, Heaven Knows, debut studio album from Pink Pantheress, follows her mixtape, To Hell With It, in 2021.
Mixtapes.
Seems to be an unintentional theme running through this podcast.
Yeah.
Which I hadn't realised when I set the podcast up.
Yeah.
But yes, so we have 3 artists who have released their debut album, having previously released an album that was called a mixtape.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, who knows? So yeah, anyway, one for the kids. What do we think, Pete?
I think it's a brilliantly produced slice of more adult pop, modern electronica, tales of the streets and romance. I have to say, on my first listen, though, it did sort of wash over me a bit. I was a little bit disappointed. I was expecting more, I think. There's a danger. It does sort of fall into a bit of a comfortable background music sort of place. It's a shame, really, because it opens really strong. The tracks Another Life and True Romance, that sort of near the start of the album, are really good. I also like Bury Me, not just because of the title, and also Capable of Love, which I think was my favourite overall standout track. So it's there. It's well produced. It's interesting. It's lyrically interesting. It tells a story. I just found it a little bit solid, but not the good solid.
Yeah, I mean, I was familiar with her from her Boys a Liar song, which was then redone with Ice Spice, which got several players around this household. Similarly, this album also has appearance from Central C, whose music also flows.
Are you also familiar with?
It also flows through the walls.
Passively familiar with that as well.
I'm very familiar with Mr. C. I can't say this album really did much for me at all.
No,
and I was quite disappointed in that as well. So yeah, I mean, I listened to it again today for this episode. It's probably the 4th time I listened to it today, because it is quite a short album. In fact, it's only about half hour.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are 3 tracks in the second half of the album. You mentioned one of them, Capable of Love, that did demonstrate that there perhaps is more and better to come. So I really like Capable of Love, Feel Complete, and Ophelia.
Yeah.
Which are all in the second half of the album.
Yeah.
All those tracks, I thought, oh, actually, yeah, I quite like these. There's something there. It's not just exactly the same as everybody else is churning out, which is kind of the problem with a lot of stuff at the moment when you've got so many artists and so few producers, and it's the same producers producing everything. And hello, Greg Kirsten, who's produces and co-wrote a couple of tracks at the start. But yes, it was disappointing for me.
Yeah.
I was hoping there was going to be more there than there was, so shame. Yeah. But she's a young lady, so I'm sure there's more to come.
More to come.
So we finish off with Aesop Rock, Integrated Tech Solutions. And I have to admit, I was not previously aware of Mr. Rock prior to this album, even though he's been around since the 90s, by all accounts. And this was clearly, this album was nothing to go by, clearly an oversight. It starts off very funnily with
an advert.
Yes, for the album for Integrated Tech Solutions,
which threw me.
Yeah, and then goes into the wonderful Mindful Solutionism, which offers a strange potted history, which starts off. 2.5 million years ago, a friend of mine made a tool and defended his tribe. It's technology. Sorry for that technical term. It's the wheel, then a fire, and the rest is a blur. And that kind of sums up exactly the tone and lyrical skill of this record, really.
Yeah.
It is lyrically a delight. Yeah. Whether it's him talking about viewing a city as it turns to night on living curfew, if it's
Yeah.
writing the first pro-pigeon song, which is very clever, but also it's not necessarily about pigeons either, because it's about because like he says, seeing pigeons as individuals and stuff like that. So it's about seeing people as individuals and not as a group, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I love the bit where he goes, "A white dove symbolizes peace and pacifism. A white dove's a pigeon. You motherfuckers is bigots."
Yeah.
So that's that. And then even that song kind of like goes off on one, and suddenly is talking about Leonardo da Vinci. Back with Artists, there's a great song about Van Gogh on failure, where he's talking about a painting that he really likes, and kind of summing up the kind of thing of how Van Gogh was a kind of failure in his own terms, in his own life, and he became popular afterwards, kind of thing, which is quite funny. And then there's lots of other just weird shit that's great. So he's talking about, there's songs about depression on Black Snow. There's Aggressive Stephen, which is about finding a meth addict in your apartment, and then how the system deals with such people and what you kind of call it there, which is really clever.
Yeah.
Song about meeting Mr. T.
Oh, it was brilliant.
And Mr. T not being an arse.
Yeah.
And
that was lovely.
Yeah, and it's just, I ended up looking up on Wikipedia. At the bottom of the Wikipedia thing, there's a thing saying, in May 2014, a study by Matt Daniels found that Aesop Rock's vocabulary in his music surpassed 85 other major hip-hop and rap artists, as well as Shakespeare's works and Herman Melville's Moby Dick.
Wow.
He was cited as having the largest vocabulary in hip-hop. To build up his vocabulary, he reads a lot in the news and science articles and writes down all the words he finds interesting. Analysis of his lyrics identified him as the rapper with the most expansive vocabulary, using the most unique words in a rapper's first 35,000 lyrics. He had 7,839 unique words.
Wow.
On this evidence, that still rings true. But as I said, it's not just the language use, it's the structuring of the songs, and it's the beats as well he's using that make this a compelling and vibrant record that stands out, for me at least, from most of the modern rap hip-hop, which often sounds either overly cluttered or monotonous and with over-processed vocals and a cast of 50,000. So It's very much an old-school rap record, which is probably why it appeals to me.
Yes, I mean, all of the above. Apart from initially being thrown by that opening track, which made me thought my Spotify account was breaking down. But seriously, what I also loved about this album, not only is it classic 80s hip-hop, there's also classic 80s synth on here as well. In its more experimental moments. It goes down that route, which is accompanies the running themes of technology running mad quite well. Did you also spot the running themes of a cat? And
I did, yeah.
And I think a goose down, I was going to say goose down duvet, but it's probably a coat, isn't it? Because it's hip hop.
Yeah, but from him, it could be a duvet.
That got mentioned a few times as well.
Yeah, it could be a duvet.
Go back and listen. You'll spot the references to the goose down coat or duvet. It opens really strong, as you say, with mindful solutionism. Very heavy. In that one, very heavy Saul Williams. Again, back to Nine Inch Nails again.
Saul Williams.
Yeah, Saul Williams, Nine Inch Nails reference. And, as you've said, Living Curfew, Pigeonometry. Album settles midway into something a bit more sort of hip hop, a bit less experimental edge, but still carries that old school vibe very well. You've mentioned Aggressive Steve, and I also thought Forward Compatibility Engine was fantastic.
Yeah, great song.
Experimentation returns, obviously, with the Van Gogh study of failure. 100 Feet Tall, Mr. T, Salt and Pepper Squid with that salt and pepper.
Bit push it.
Yeah, push it bit. I also love By the River as well. As like him communing with a beaver or something in the Hudson River.
Yeah.
But it was really, really good. Do you know what? Spoilers. This is my album of the podcast. And as it was the end of the year, I don't think I listened to it as much as I could have done. Had it been released earlier in the year, I think this would have ranked a lot higher on my albums of the year list as well than it ultimately did. I'm just going to leave that hanging.
Yeah, well, it made it into mine anyway. Possibly might have been similarly higher with more of a lead in.
Yeah.
However, it's still done all right.
Yeah, indeed.
In our list. Speaking of which.
Should we do it? Let's do it. It's the moment you've all been waiting for.
Well, two old men read out a list of their favourite albums of the year.
Whee!
With no drum roll or anything.
I can't be bothered. Go on. Let's skip to it.
So, Pete,
Yes.
of all the fine albums we listened to last year,
Yes.
which ones were the ones that you thought were particularly fine?
Well, it's funny you ask me, Scott, because I kind of kept a record throughout the year. And rather than go through the whole list, let me just pull out a couple of my favourites from right through the list. I think Aesop Rock, which we've just reviewed,
Yes.
comfortably in my top 12. Perhaps could have even made the top 10 given more time. But I think, up in my top 10, you've definitely got the likes of Boy Genius, the record, which I think has figured on a lot of top lists this year.
It has indeed.
Lana Del Rey, Do You Know There's a Tunnel underneath the ocean? Oh my God, I still can't see the title. The one about the Ocean Boulevard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely up there.
Long
as well.
title.
Props to our good friend Bergman.
Indeed.
That actually just scraped into my top 5. I say just scraped. It is in my top 5 of the year.
They're at number 5, I can see.
Yeah. For me, I'm not going to spoil the ending because I think there's a bit of a discussion to be had, maybe right at the end.
There perhaps is.
So why don't I pause there and you let me know what you thought of your list?
Yeah. I said Aesop Rock made it into my top 10, even because it was the first thing I listened to.
Yeah.
Hold on. Yes, it was the first thing I listened to when we started originally reviewing the podcast's albums.
Yeah.
And immediately, I went, as I said, because it starts off so impressively, it was like, oh, hello, this is good.
Yeah.
So I literally listened to it 3 times in a row. Straight off, I went, I like this. Maybe I should listen to the other albums just so I'm actually prepared. So yes, that was really, really good. As you said, Bergman, he made it to number 10 in my list. Cracking record from Matt's.
Yeah.
Margot Price, who you had, I think, about number 20, I think, in your list.
Just outside, yeah.
Yeah. Strays, that was one of the albums early on in the year that I really, really liked. So much so I put it on vinyl. Really strong record. Be Your Own Pet, which you've got
Quite high. Very high.
I've got number 7.
Yeah.
It's a really good return from them after being away for a while.
Oh.
Really, by far, the best indie album that we covered during the year.
Clearly.
Olivia Rodrigo, again, really strong debut album. Came back with a really strong follow-up album as well. Critically acclaimed, and also people buying it, ordinary punters buying it too. So,
yeah,
really good. As you said, and then we have the top 5 charts.
The top 5 charts.
Where we all had the same 3 albums, 3 of the same albums in our top 5.
Yes, one of which is featured in most people's critical list of the year.
Yes, two of which
are purely personal.
Yes, have not featured in anybody's. Yes, So let's go with the one that actually appeared in quite a lot of lists, which was the return of Blur with the Ballad of Darren.
Yeah,
terrific record.
Terrific. Still, yeah. My brother-in-law Neil will be pleased that this features so highly. Yeah, terrific record. Really good, really solid. I mean, good, solid. Come back after yet another hiatus, several years, accompanied, of course, by a slew of really great gigs, apparently. And amazing that even after all this time, an album of that sort of caliber, an album that sounds like Blur's greatest hits without being leaning too heavily into nostalgia, actually sounds fresh and successful.
Yeah, very much so. It's just a really strong record, and certainly one of the best of the career. But definitely, which is why
it's one of their strongest.
Its reviews and its place on many lists has been as it has been.
And I imagine they'd never got back together and never done this. I mean, it must be in their top 5 of albums they've done. I don't know.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
So that was the one that people.
That's the one everyone picked.
Yeah. The two that are more esoteric and won't be hugely surprising to anyone that's ever listened to this podcast are The Whole Steady, The Price of Progress, and Depeche Mode, Memento Mori.
Oh.
So, which should we deal with first? So you had because obviously you had them both higher than me. So you had the best at number 1 and steady at number 2.
Yeah.
Whereas I was 4 and 5.
So for me, the Hold Steady. I think this is my favourite album of theirs since the last time I had a favourite album of theirs, which probably takes us all way back to their heyday. You know, I really enjoyed this one. I think I enjoyed it more than you did on the podcast as well. I really connected with some of the tracks on this album in a way that I perhaps haven't for a very long time. Any of their efforts, really. I think Six is still an amazing tune when I listen to it, when it comes on shuffle. I still love that tune. I think it's great that they're still able and capable of writing a song like that. And, you know, I think some of the other tracks on there are really pretty strong and are definitely growers. And I just think, what are they? Is it the 20th anniversary last year when we saw them? What a way to sort of round it out.
Must have been.
Yeah. So for me, that was, as I say, their strongest album since the late noughties, the early 2010s.
Yeah, well, I preferred the album before.
You did, yeah.
Totally honest. Open Door Policy.
That's the one, which I liked as well. I feel that Open Door Policy was leading here.
They are kind of companion albums.
Definitely. I just felt this one had a bit more of a flourish, or maybe a bit more of a pop sensibility to it, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Yeah. Just Hold Steady.
Hold and Steady.
And then there was The Mode.
The Mode. Wow.
He returned with an album that didn't totally suck.
No. I like the last one. This album for me was perfect for them.
In terms of what?
In terms of technical issues. In terms of, you know, where they are on their journey. Obviously the loss of Fletch last year, year before. This could have sunk as a project. I think it's actually their strongest album. I think we had this debate at the time, is it their strongest album in a decade? I think this is their strongest album now in the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah,
it's just grown on me that far. I always have that thing with Depeche Mode albums. It's like, oh, you love it because it's new, and then the next one will be along at some point. I don't know if there will be a next one. I think that's the other element to this as well. If this is their final album, then boy, what a way to go out.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I think it's a career. It's never going to be the imperial career high that they had in the early 90s, but this is as close as damn it. Yeah, no, I love this album.
Yeah, it's the psychedelic mode.
Yes, the psychedelic mode, indeed.
Yeah, I mean, this is, as you say, this was easily their best album in a really long time. Consistent from start to finish, unlike previous albums that have certainly had proper duds in them. I don't think there's proper duds in this album. I mean, obviously some tracks are better. They are clearly better than other tracks, but the whole album hangs together quite well as a piece. And we were lucky enough to see them live this year as well.
We were
in the Germany.
Indeed, which was fantastic. And they're still out there touring. So if anyone's listening to this and you haven't seen them yet, go see them.
Yeah, because again, this could be
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So as it turned out, when we combined our lists, our top 20 odds, our overall top 10 CTTB music albums of 2023 were at number 10, Aesop Rock, Integrated Tech Solutions. So you didn't make it in there now. At number 9, Lana Del Rey, Did You Know There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard?
Well done.
No. Number 8, Bergman with Embers.
Oh.
Cheers, Mats.
Cheers, Mats.
Number 7, Boy Jesus.
Boy Jesus. Boy Jesus.
Boy Jesus. God, I'm drinking non-alcoholic. West Almighty. Boy Genius, the record, which was actually my album of the year.
Yeah.
Number 5, yes, you'll notice we've gone from 9 to 8 to 7 to 5.
Right.
Be Your Own Pet, Mommy, and Olivia Rodrigo, Guts.
Yeah.
4, Susan Sund 4, Blummy.
Of course, which was great.
It was indeed.
Yeah.
And we have a treble joint number
my
one
God.
of the album.
Have we had this? We've never had this before.
No, we haven't.
We've never tied.
So Blur, The Ballad of Darren, Best Way, Moment Boy, and The Whole Study, The Price of Progress were our equal
Excellent
number one album of 2023.
Well, that's going to mess the spreadsheet up, isn't it? There we go. Yeah.
So there you go.
Amazing. So for all those naysayers that are saying that last year wasn't the greatest year for music, I say you're wrong.
Well, I'd say there are 10 albums there that are worth anyone's time.
Yeah, definitely.
And that cover quite a few genres.
Yeah.
Indeed as well.
Indeed.
So, yeah. You know, if you want to hear some birds tweeting and stuff, then a bit of Susan Sunful.
Yeah.
Which I did this afternoon. So anyway, that's the end of 2023.
Thank God.
Even though it's the start of 2024.
Oh,
so now all we need to do is find some albums 2024, isn't it?
We've got to do it all again.
Yeah.
Blimey.
So, see you on the next one when we talk about stuff from this year. Maybe. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, David Bowie's still dead.
Oh, Happy New Year.
Yeah. This podcast is a Vineland production.